A wounded Scotland take on a resurgent Wales at Murrayfield. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. This weekend, the Ireland versus France game is kind of, the glitzy, headline-grabbing fixture of the weekend, but this one could actually be, give us the most exciting game. So Scotland versus Wales, Saturday, the 8th of March, 2025. It's at Murrayfield. It's 4:45 kickoff. Last year, Wales 26, Scotland 27. 2023 was Scotland 35, Wales 7. Odds then 7-1 on Scotland for the win. Wales are 7-1, and the draw is 45-1. So bookies looking at, something more akin to 2023's result than last year at the Principality. They're basically looking for, feeling that Scotland gonna win fairly comfortably. Now, let's have a look at the teams, and then we'll talk about how to change. So we start with the home team, Scotland. Full back, we've got Blair Kinghorn. The right wing is Darcy Graham. Centres, Hugh Jones and Tom Jordan. Left wing, Duhan van der Merwe. Halfbacks, Finn Russell and Ben White. The front row is Pierre Schoeman, Dave Cherry and Xander Fagerson. The second row then is Johnny Gray and Grant Gilchrist. Back row, Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge and Jack Dempsey. And Finn Russell and Rory Darge are the co-captains. On the bench then you got Ewan Ashman, Rory Sutherland, Will Hurd, Gregor Brown, Matt Fagerson, George Horn, Stafford McDowell and Kyle Rowe. Okay, so let's have a look then at the Wales team. So starting from fullback, you got Blair Murray. Right wing, Tom Rogers. Centres, Max Llewellyn and Ben Thomas. The left wing is Ellis Mee. The halfbacks, Garrett Anscombe and Tomas Williams. Front row, Nicky Smith, Elliot Dee and Will Griff John. Second row, Will Rowlands and Dafford Jenkins. Back row, Jack Morgan, Tommy Raffel and Talupe Faletau, and Jack Morgan is the captain. On the bench then we have Dewi Lake, Garrett Thomas, Kieran Rassarati, Teddy Williams, Aaron Wainwright, Rodri Williams, Jared Evans and Joe Roberts. Okay, so changes to the teams. No, not too many from these two actually. Darcy Graham back in after that head clash against Ireland. You kind of knew, he was available. He's going to start. He's just too good to leave out if he's ready and to go. Kyle Rowe then drops down to the bench, and Rory Sutherland comes onto the bench after a back spasm. So looking at that team for Scotland, like we talked about before, the whole back line is pretty much like playmaker, finisher, playmaker, finisher, like mixed all together. So you got like Kinghorn, Tom Jordan and Finn Russell, all playmakers. Then you have Graham, Hugh Jones and Van der Merwe, all great finishers in there as well. And then you have Ben White at 9, to kind of pick out whoever he wants from there as well. So lots of threats in that back line. I feel like they haven't really got the back line singing completely. We've seen them creating chances, but against England they created chances but couldn't actually finish a few of them off. So definitely got to be a little more clinical. But you look at the talent in there, and they definitely have the ability to pull teams apart. Whether they can do that in this one, we'll have to see. Then onto their pack, like the front row, Schoeman, always a popular player for Scotland, and it's because he gives us all. Dave Cherry, I think, has been doing really well. That offload he gave from the floor for one of their tries, that was against Italy, right? Was amazing. Xander Fagerson, then the guy's just a stalwart in there, and he's probably going to be touring with the Lions, I'd imagine. This summer as well. Then second row, Johnny Gray, Grant Gilchrist, like some Scotland fans saying, we don't really have much depth in the second row, but still Scotland's line out pretty solid, and those guys have to take some credit for that. Then the back row, Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge has been, had a decent tournament. Still, he's got to produce, I think, in the last two rounds, though. He would have been, I'd say, coming into the Six Nations, he would have been one of those players that that people have said, yeah, he's going on the lines. And now people are kind of second guessing that a little bit. So gotta kind of pull out some performances, I think, against Wales and then against France in the last game as well. Jack Dempsey, brilliant carrier for them. I think he brings, more to the back row, I think, than Matt Fagerson, who's on the bench. Then the bench as well, you got Ashman, Sutherland and Hurd, to come on in the front row there. So that'll be interesting because Wales' scrum went well against Ireland. So, but then when the replacements come on, actually Ireland turned it around a little bit. So it'll be interesting if Scotland are struggling, not saying they will, but if they are struggling in the scrum, if they can do something similar when they come on. Then got George Brown there, who's been decent. Matt Fagerson, not as good as he was maybe a couple of years ago. George Horn, fantastic player to come off the bench. I think Stafford McDowell, one of those players, he can cover a number of positions, and he just loves some open space as well. If he can get to carry back against a disorganized defense, the guy can really cause trouble. And then Kyle Rowe, he did well in Darcy Graham's absence, but I think it's fair that Graham comes back into the team. So let's talk about the changes for Wales then. Not very many. So unchanged 15 for first 15 for Wales for the very first time since the 2019 Rugby World Cup. So after all the tinkering under Gatland, Sharrett has come in and he's bringing improved performance. He's bringing more confidence for the players. He seems to have, he was talking during the week as well about the fact that he didn't have all the players there because they were released to play, in the URC. But still, he said something I think that was damning of, Gatland and Howley and the coaches that were there before is the fact that he said that you can see that this is a very coachable group of players and there's lots of improvement to come. So I think that's damning of the job that Gatland did, because Gatland, basically everybody just assumed that the players weren't there in Wales. And now we're kind of thinking after the performance against Ireland, maybe that was wrong. Doesn't mean that Wales are going to, come on now and beat Scotland and England and look fantastic all of a sudden, but it does kind of show that there was potential there that wasn't being tapped. Then we've so unchanged first 15 as I said, but on the bench then we have Dowie Lake back after injury and Kieran Azaradi coming onto the bench instead of Henry Thomas. So not much change there, and why not? Because the guys did well against Ireland, give them another chance to go, right? And I think that was the right thing to do. Looking at their team then, the likes of Blair Murray has looked very impressive in the URC, and he's done pretty well, I think, for Wales as well. Tom Rogers, pretty good. Ellis Mee looked excellent against Ireland, for a debut. That was a brilliant debut by him. Then you got Max Llewellyn and Ben Thomas there in the centres. Good to have a bit of consistency there, because Wales and England over the past kind of few years, it's always been, let's rotate like 10 different players in through the centres looking for some magical combination. So it's nice to see, a bit of kind of consistency there in picking. And then Anscombe, having been left out of the squad, doing a great job at 10 there. Tomas Williams, giving quick ball from 9 as well, and that's going to be so important. And we saw as well against Ireland, Wales previous to your Ireland game were standing so flat in attack, so deep in attack, and now they're standing flatter and actually coming onto the ball at pace. Where against against France and Italy, they're basically passing the ball like 2 men out from the ruck or wherever, and suddenly they're 5 meters behind the gain line, and they find it very hard to get gain line. So that little change of personnel and also change in approach has certainly helped them. Then that front row, Smith, D and John, went really well against Ireland in the scrum, and they'll feel like they can have a go at this Scotland scrum too. Again, doesn't mean that they're going to be on top. Scrums, I don't know what the hell goes on in them. I just know that when they're pushing sometimes, obviously both teams are cheating, whether you want to call it cheating or not, but pretty sure every front row cheats in the scrum, but it's about who gets caught, right? Then the second row, Rowlands and Jenkins there. Jenkins coming back in, I think has certainly helped them. Back row, Jack Morgan, has been pretty, decent. He was decent against, the back row was decent against Ireland, right? Without like being absolutely amazing, but still, when Wales were doing well, those guys are looking good. Tommy Raffel coming back in, I think better balance to the back row. Tulupe Faletau, maybe he's not at the level that he was previously, but he's been out a while, with injuries. So it doesn't mean that he necessarily like has lost something. Could be just kind of getting back up to the pace of test level. So we'll see how he goes in this one. And then on the bench, Derry Lake, always a good servant for the team. Thomas and Azarati there. Again, when they come on, if they are doing well in the scrum or doing well in the set piece overall, those guys have to come on and back that up. They can't let Scotland turn things around there. Teddy Williams and Aaron Wainwright, then the other forwards coming on. Wainwright, I think good impact from the bench, and it's good to see him on there for them as well. And then in the backs, then you have Williams, Evans and Roberts all going to come on and try and show what they can do. So let's talk about some of the talking points for this game. First of all, Scotland, championship gone for another year, and you look at this group of players, and you can't help but feel like they should be doing better in the Six Nations than they are. Looking at the talent that they have available to them. Yes, they have, an exceptional Ireland team, an exceptional France team in there as well, and England and sometimes Wales as well, coming with decent, performances and being able to kind of, especially England, win the championship too. But you look at that Scotland team that have been there for a while now, and you think, how have they not just won the Six Nations, but how have they not even like finished runner up, in the Six Nations over that period? So you have to then look at Townsend and his coaching team for that. And, if they lose this one, they're going to be under immense pressure, because we talked about it a few times now that, you have Franco Smith there at Glasgow being kind of courted by Wales in terms of, do you want to come and, try your hand at test level again? He was there with Italy before. And then Scotland, the Scotland Union must be looking at that and getting a bit nervous and thinking, well, should we maybe be the ones talking to him about coming into our setup instead? But for that, obviously Townsend would have to exit. And I think if Scotland lose this one, you could actually see Townsend stepping down at the end of this Six Nations. But whatever happens, Scotland definitely need to be more clinical than they were against England. They created some good opportunities there, and couldn't the final pass or just being able to hold on to the ball right at the end just wasn't happening for them. So definitely need to improve on that. For Wales then, huge positivity around the squad after that performance against Ireland. And, you feel like if they can get the kind of start that they got against Ireland, they might be able to hold on to it against Scotland, whereas, Ireland just had a little bit more to be able to turn things around. And, I said it before that now after that performance against Ireland, Wales are absolutely looking to win, one of the last two games. Obviously, they'd love to win both, but they're in their mind now. They're thinking, we can produce a performance, in one of those two games that will get us a win. Either way against Scotland in this one or against England at the Principality on the final day. So that's how much things have suddenly changed for them, and that's why as kind of an outsider looking in, I think a lot of people and a lot of Welsh fans as well were looking at the situation on the Gatland and thinking like, why are people still backing him? Because it's, from an outsider, it was clear that he was definitely part of the problem. And you look at, if you watch as much URC rugby as me as well, you can see that that there are actually decent Welsh players running around in the URC. Not necessarily the whole teams. Some of the teams perform well or whatever, but you can see there are players who week in, week out, even in losing teams or teams that are kind of inconsistent and winning now and then, that they still were performing, that there was potential there to put something together and bring them on, especially when you looked at, how Ospreys did last year, that miracle making the playoffs of the URC. And then this year, then looking how, Cardiff started the season, how Scarlets have been going this season as well. Like Scarlets bringing in, instilling some kind of steel in their team that wasn't there last year, that kind of thing, and having that attacking flair there as well. So, you knew that there was some potential there, and that what was coming out of, Gatland and his coaching team about, the lack of, any kind of decent players available, etc., wasn't quite true. And we're seeing that now at Match Art. Doesn't mean that Wales are going to be, consistently as good as they were against Ireland. It's a journey, right? Comes in maybe a lift, for the game against Ireland, just because the whole, doom and gloom has gone, right? But then maybe against Scotland or maybe even against Scotland and England, performances drop a little bit, but there will still be flashes of some good play in there and a bit more, that optimism isn't suddenly going to go away if they lose against Scotland and England. I think it's going to continue on into the tour to Japan during the summer. You're going to see a lot of players then coming on at that stage, and the team beginning to really gel. And then in the autumn, then you're probably going to see some decent performance out of them. And then by next Six Nations, then Wales are going to be, I think, a force again in the Six Nations. But for this game, I think Wales definitely can produce a performance. Scotland, kind of really down in the doldrums on themselves, but I think that's going to help them, in terms of bouncing back. They're going to look to bounce back, and they're going to look to, shut up a few critics and show what they can actually do. And that's going to be a bad sign for Wales, I think. So I think Scotland are going to win it, but I think it is going to be a bit closer than like 7-1 on odds for Scotland would kind of suggest. So I think it will be somewhere between, one score and maybe 10, 12 points in the final margin. But Wales are going to be in it for much of the game as well. And again, I think it's probably going to be the most exciting game of the weekend. We could see both teams maybe coming out of this one with try bonus points. I think that would be a fairly acceptable couple of hours of rugby watching out of that. But that's the end of this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.